What's up, rookies? Today we learn how to take a professional photo manually. From this to this. You're watching YouTube Taught Me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. First things first, how's life? How's health? How's COVID treating you guys over there on the East Coast?
Pretty good. It's snowing, so it's okay that we're in our houses.
First, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then tell me about your YouTube channel and how we can get in contact with you.
Great. Yeah, so my name is Liz. I'm from Elizabeth Snyder Photography. I am a woman's portraiture photographer. I specialize in boudoir and maternity, headshots. I do a lot of models and actors, headshots, and that sort of thing. I do have a YouTube channel. It is mostly of behind the scenes of different portrait sessions that I've done. So that's at Elizabeth Snyder Photography LLC, I believe. But my website is elizabethsnyderphotography.com. And same thing with Facebook and Instagram. The classes that I teach are beginner photography. They will take you from auto to manual in the first day. The classes are typically an hour to 2 hours a week, and then you get homework every week. It is 6 classes, or 6 weeks rather, and we gear your class toward the type of photography that you want to concentrate on. So if you want to concentrate on portraits, that's what you're going to learn. If you want to do food photography, that's what you're going to learn. If I don't know an answer, I will find it.
I found one of your videos, and it was a bit of a tutorial on certain things, but I really was thinking, okay, well, she's a photographer, so she knows a lot about lighting, and my initial request was for you to teach me something about lighting and setup and things like that, so I can make my dungeon kind of glow a little bit better. But after having a conversation with you, I realized that your expertise was with cameras and photography and everything like that. So there was no reason for me to go down that road of lighting. People could see me, well enough, you know what I mean? But to learn a little bit something new about this camera that I've had it for some years now. I've never really known how to actually use it other than point, click, or turn it on, point, click, shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get started.
Absolutely. So why don't we start with what camera you have?
Okay. I have the Nikon D3300.
That's fine. So the 3300 is a crop sensor camera, which means what you see in your viewfinder is going to end up producing a smaller picture than what it's showing you. So you're going to have about 25% of the picture actually is not going to show up once you put it onto your computer.
Okay.
That being said, that's fine. And absolutely, if it's a hobbyist camera, that is perfect. But what I'm going to teach you today is how to actually shoot in manual instead of auto, okay. And how to judge where you need to be in your settings in order to get a great picture every time.
Okay.
So if you want to start by turning the camera on.
Got it.
Great. And switching your little A and M to M for manual.
Oh boy, here we go. Here.
Because you are smarter than the camera, I promise.
Yeah, I doubt that, but we're gonna figure it out.
No, you are, I promise.
1 eternity later.
Okay, and it is in manual right now, right? Like the dial at the top is set to M?
I mean, it is now.
Okay.
I I told you I didn't know what I was doing.
That's okay.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
That's all right. Now, on the back of your camera, you should have three things. It should say shutter speed, aperture, and ISO sensitivity. That's going to be your exposure triangle, which I'm going to get into. And these are the only three things you ever need to know about a camera. Well, not really, but to start off, this is how you get a really good exposure every time. Okay, so you are going to learn what makes a good picture.
Here we go.
All right, so the three things to know: the exposure triangle, and again, is ISO. That's how sensitive your camera is to light. And these are based on film grades. So back in the day when I learned how to do photography, we had to buy film based on what our conditions were. So if we were kind of looking for an all around, we were going outdoors to indoors, we would do like 400 to 600. If we were going to be all indoors and using flash, we'd probably be using 1,000 or higher, and it just kind of depended. But each grade higher was going to be even more noisy, just like your camera is going to be today. So typically for outdoor in sunny settings, you want to be 100 or below if your camera will go below that, so that it's a nice, clean, clear shot. You don't need it to be extra sensitive to let more light in because you already have enough. And then if you're in a darker setting, let's say you're shooting a reception or whatever, you need a little more sensitivity depending on how your flashes are, and the picture's going to get more noisy the higher you go, but you'll be able to get the shot. The next thing to know is your aperture, and again, this is how wide your lens is going to open, and again, that's to allow more light to come in, but it will affect your focus, which we'll get into. And then your shutter speed, and that's how fast your trigger will close. So your shutter is a little curtain inside of the camera. You press your trigger, and the curtain shuts and opens. And how fast that shuts and opens is going to make a difference in your picture. So we'll get into that too. So this is the aperture. This is how open your lens can be. On prime lenses, you can go as low as 1.4. Some of them are on the Canons are even 1.2. And the lens is really, really nice and wide. And you can see that in the picture. And what that means is that it's going to allow the maximum amount of light in, but you are not, yep, no problem. But you're not going to have a whole lot in focus. So if you're shooting a portrait at 1.4 and you're, let's say, 3 feet away from somebody, and you're focusing in on their eye, only their eye on their face is going to be in focus. The rest of it is going to start to blur away. So f.2, f.2.8, f4, and then we get into 5.6, which is about where your camera is going to start. 5.6 is a great starting point for a one-person portrait. You're not going to get a whole lot of bokeh. You're not going to get that fancy, blur in the background. The background's going to be a little sharper, but everything will be sharper. So you'll have everything in focus, and it is a good starting point because you don't want to miss where you're trying to shoot. F.8, f11, f16, again, the hole gets smaller, which means it's allowing less light in. Your picture is going to be darker, but you're going to have that much more in focus. Right, so this picture was shot at an 85 millimeter, so that's what size my lens was, at an f4, which is about what I shoot portraits at. ISO 50, so it's the lowest that my camera will go, at 1/8 of a second. And so with this one, I'm shooting at 85 again. That's the prime lens that I have on my camera. I'm shooting at a 7.1. Which means that less light is coming in than before. the ISO is turned way up to 51,000. So you're going to get a lot of noise. And this is at 1/4000th of a second, which means it's handheld, it's nice and sharp. But in order to get that same exposure that we had before, I have to put up with the grain and the noise from the ISO being up so high. These are different examples of what you can do with long exposures. So if you set your camera up on a tripod and you have a remote trigger, you don't need a flash to do this at all. You can get these light trails. So a lot of people will set these up outside of throughways, or like this is, and the car's zipping by, the shutter stays open and it's just collecting all of that light, and you don't see the car because the car is going too fast, but the light stays there. And then this, again, this is one of my favorite things to do at weddings. So you set up. You can set up a flash. What's that?
This is a picture that you took.
I didn't take it. I have done these. This is actually an example of somebody else's, but
you can do this though.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So and it's all one shot. It's very cool. So what you do is you set up an external flash. You set your camera on a very long exposure. I usually do about 10 seconds. You make sure you're in a very dark setting. You light the sparkler, and you have the bride hold the sparkler. You have your assistant write out the word or the design or whatever you want to do. And the flash freezes the bride and groom. So the flash is going to freeze the people. It pops, and the shutter keeps rolling, and your assistant writes out the word, and that's all you see because your assistant is going too quickly and it's too dark. So it's very, very cool. So that is just a very quick overview of how cameras work. So it is shutter speed, your f-stop, and your ISO. And those three things are going to control the light, which is all a camera is.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is obviously something that we all can use because sure, I have this specific camera, but the lesson that you just taught is one of those things that can be could be used for any camera, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep. Yeah, awesome. Any camera.
Now I should be able to go ahead and start booking some people. Start,
Takes a little bit of practice, but yeah.
Nah, it's all good. Just hold my beer. I gotcha.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you.